Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. This episode is actually today brought to you by Wrist Candy Watch Club. So typically, guys, as far as sponsored content goes, I like to be very transparent. This is not a review for Wrist Candy Watch Club straps. This is actually part of my Wristwatch Rambles and Rants. And today we're going to be talking about the Seikos that we see here. But this episode has been brought to you by Wrist Candy Watch Club. So if you support the channel, feel free to support the channel sponsors as well. They're really known for their super affordable NATOs, and here's a nice assortment of the different colors and patterns you're going to be able to find within their web shop. So definitely check the links in the comments below if you're looking for some super cheap, really nice looking NATO straps. Now, here we go, guys. This is really a bit of the battle of the baby Seiko. We have the Seiko Mini Turtle versus the Seiko Mini-Tuna. Now, these watches are outstanding, and they're actually pretty close in price. They're just over 400 bucks. One's at 417, the other's at 420. So and then also ISO certified divers. They're also kind of smaller reimaginations of much larger iconic timepieces, and they're pretty awesome. And I have them both here on their factory rubber straps. So they're really nice, but they're also quite versatile, being that they have 20mm lug widths. So you can put it on a nylon NATO strap or any type of other rubber, or even aftermarket bracelets will also work. So a little bit about the brand. Of course, Seiko was founded back in 1881. They're Japanese in origin and now have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to high end. Now, this particular type of watch that we're looking at here, the subgenre would be the dive watch. Some key common characteristics in design language when you're looking for a dive watch: of course, you're going to want water resistance to some type of screw down crown. You're going to want something that's tough, legible, with a dive time bezel, and a diver's extension is always nice, but these are on the rubber strap, so you don't need that, which is great. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom out, and take a closer look. All right, guys, so of course, these are outstanding. I mean, I love literally both of these watches. This is a little bit more old school. Honestly been around the block for a little bit with the Mini Turtle. This new Mini-Tuna is a little bit newer. It's part of their kind of urban safari line, which is really great, quite stylish. They have some really interesting color play, even in this kind of monochromatic, gray, black, and white color scheme. Also, we do have this classic black and steel with that sex appeal there. It's really, really a beautiful piece. Super, super legible, super functional. I mean, these things are really just awesome when it comes to diving, legibility, sportswear. They're just super comfortable watches. They both come on very nice, semi-similar, I guess you could say, straps, because here you see that outer texturing there. That's actually the under texturing here, so a little different from that standpoint. Also, here you get a more dramatic taper, as you can see, versus here it's pretty much a non-taper. So 20mm goes down to 20mm, although it does flare out, so it gives you kind of a false taper there, but it just tapers back to its original size. Really beautiful hardware there as far as the keeper goes. Same here, except we even get a nice, buffed up clasp as well, being fully milled. So really nice from that standpoint. These are both quite handsome pieces, and they come in at relatively small sizes. And I know some of you on paper might be thinking, how can you call a 42mm watch small, or a what's this, a 43mm watch? Well, it's because they have super compact lug to lugs. Guys, the lug to lug on this bad boy right here is only like 42.5mm. So this thing is extremely short lug to lug, which helps it wear so amazingly. So even though you get a little bit of wideness, also you'll notice there's quite a bit of overhang on the case versus the bezel versus the dial. So those proportions make this wear much smaller. This is a really small dial. And then similar story here, you're getting that smaller dial aspect, so you're getting those proportions that really shrink this down, and again, you're getting really short lugs. When you go lug to lug on this guy, it's only 43.8 millimeters. So really short lug to lug. And then obviously here you even get visually the lugs are, you know, they're very minimalist, and then they're covered by the shroud. So there's a bit of shrinking. So you have layers and it just dials down. Even there with that color contrasting chapter ring, that also does help shrink the dial down visually. So as you look at these two, the watch that's a 43 is actually going to probably appear smaller, mostly because of the dial size. And looking at that ratio, your eyes just want to trick you. But I assure you, both of these wear extremely excellent, very well, and very short on wrist. So the nice thing is, here, guys, so everybody loves Seikos, right? Grand Seiko, they're great watches, but they're typically pretty large, and they do a lot of tricks to make these watches wear much smaller. But the cool thing is, now you get all of Seiko's tricks that shrink the watch down, like having those short lugs, like having these beautiful contours. Look at that case, guys. Look at these case contours there. That's all working together to shrink this watch down. So with that said, you know what? Typically I cut away to put on the watches. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, this thing wears really nice. Honestly, wears a little bit small. And then as you get closer here, kind of to a more traditional wristy, you're gonna get some lens distortion. It's gonna make it seem even bigger as far as proportions go, but you pull it back down to earth and you could tell this is actually a pretty small wearing watch. And then same thing here. Again, that really short lug to lug really centers the watch on your wrist, which is great. And then even up close, when you start getting to that wristy territory and you're gonna get that lens distortion, it's still gonna fit on the wrist relatively well. And of course, these are divers, guys, so they're, you know, relatively thick, so they still have that sporty attitude, and of course all that wrist presence, all that instant legibility. Just these things just ooze function. And then the nice thing is you get those nice little features, like check out the hardware on there. Look at that bevel, absolutely excellent. Same goes for here on this side, beautiful. Even with that DLC coat, absolutely outstanding. So these are super versatile, guys. I mean, obviously a black dive watch, black and steel, is going to go with pretty much anything. And then you start getting with the gray, which obviously also goes with a lot. But the nice thing is you're actually getting a different type of pop of color. So you're getting a pop of brightness, but you're not having to add orange or yellow or, you know, anything crazy over the top colors. You're getting a pop of brightness, right? But it's just gray, which is really cool. I mean, it's the equivalent of almost having something with a bunch of steel on it. And then here the accent is actually black in that DLC coating, which looks great. As far as, you know, comparables, I do think that the bezel action is better on the, on this little Mini-Tuna. Really nice action there. Very dialed in, really easy to grip. Honestly, the fit and finish I think is to a higher level here, but honestly this is from the newer line of basically Pro Specs. This was kind of that intermediary line before they started rolling out some of the really crazy expensive stuff. This was kind of just in that range where, you know, with the turtle reissue still, where it's still, you know, under $500, but still, you know, oriented towards kind of people looking for something really affordable, knock around type watch. And that's exactly what this is, guys. This thing can go anywhere, do anything, and look good doing it. I love the case design, and the nice thing is it's using, well, it's the nice thing about both of these, right? They use Seiko's design language and design lineage without, you know, just being kind of a reissue or anything like that. They really reimagine it and modernize it in really interesting ways, so I definitely dig that. Real quickly here for this bezel action. It's definitely good action. Just doesn't feel quite as dialed in, I guess you could say, as the Mini Turtle here. I'm sorry, Mini Tuna. So mini tees. Let's go ahead and set up for some low light transition and Lume Shots. Okay guys, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, honestly, these are some of my favorite Seiko watches, when it comes to Lume, these things are absolutely killer, and they don't break the bank either. So I think that's absolutely wonderful. You're really getting kind of a distilled take on the Seiko design language and their capabilities. You're still getting that ISO certified diver, and you're getting a ton of Lume. Of course, here you're seeing that the Baby Tuna does have that partially loomed bezel insert, which is absolutely beautiful and 100% useful. Now, one thing I really like to do in these little comparisons and reviews is do some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field, you know, in direct sunlight. Sometimes you're going to be coming in and out of buildings, you know, maybe hitting underneath an overhang, and just generally being in less than optimal lighting. So I like to do this here so you guys can actually get a nice idea of the way some of these colors are going to render, some of the way the textures are going to read in person, and I'll even go to the extent of giving you some really harsh lighting conditions so that you can actually see some of the imperfections here. Luckily for you guys, these watches actually are pretty nice when it comes to in terms of their fit and finish. So you're not going to see a lot of kind of weird defects or anything like that. You're going to see the light gliding very uniformly over the beautiful finishing here, the brushing nice and uniform, very good looking from that standpoint. So go ahead, and as you can see, even in that kind of partial transitional, there's just so much Lume there, it just works. And you can see just absolutely these watches kill it. Look at that, just so legible. Even a little peak, nothing washes out. You still get great orientation for the 12 o'clock, and you know, man, good stuff. All right, guys, so these watches, they're outstanding. They cost about $400 though, right? They don't have sapphire, but they are pretty much all in-house, right? It's Seiko, so even the lubricants are done in-house, the hairsprings, everything. There's a lot of integrated brands that don't come anywhere near that. The closest comparison would be somebody like Rolex, and you know what? They sell for a lot more. Are these watches comparable to Rolex watches? Outside of function, probably not. All right. When it comes to the fit and finish, of course, Rolexes are going to be nicer. There's, you know, Rolex doesn't really have a $400 arm in their divisions. But if they did, how would they stand up to these? I don't know. It's tough to say when you consider how well Grand Seiko stands up to your Rolex and other, you know, luxury brands, especially when you think about kind of sporty steel luxury, which is really where Grand Seiko also have their bread and butter. So these are really great. I mean, obviously, I love the way that they wear. They wear a little bit smaller because of the shorter lug to lug and the more generally compact size. And then you also have Seiko using their tricks where they just shrink things down based off the proportions with the dial versus the bezel versus the rest of the case, and then the way that they use those lug widths as well. So they use a lot of different tricks to make these watches wear a lot smaller. Some of you might actually even put on one of these watches and think they wear too small. But you know what? It's fine. These things are legitimate tool watches. There's nothing small or hard to read about them. So really it ends up being just a compact watch that you don't have to worry about weighing your wrist down at the end of the day. So if you're kind of trying to decide on your next Seiko watch and you don't have the big bucks to spend on one of these really new and exciting Prospex models, like the SBDC 101 or maybe the new Willard reissue or something like that, and you're just looking for something that's under $500 that has a ton of heritage, lineage, and just a lot to love, I think these two choices are absolutely outstanding and are really quite standalone. I guess as far as comparable models, you probably could take an Orient Mako 2 or a Ray 2 and compare them. You could even probably take the Komatsu, and then you would even get a Sapphire Crystal, which is also nice. So, but at the end of the day, you know, just a little bit more generic. The bezel action is not quite as good, but those are nice watches, right? They don't quite have the, I guess, the visibility and the heritage quite to the level of Seiko, but you know, they're brothers from another mother, and they're still quite good and quite nice. But if you're looking for something a little bit more iconic, I'd say go with these guys. Obviously, Orients are solid watches for the money, and that's where they're propositioned to be. That's where they live, that's their space, and they do it well. You can't really get mad at them for that. But at the end of the day, you know, you try to comb over the aesthetics of an Orient watch, it's tough to find that, you know, distinct Orient DNA, right? As far as iconic DNA. Here, I mean, these are icons of not just Seiko, of just the dive watch community. Your Seiko Turtle, right, and your Seiko Tuna, two iconic watches. One being a movie star watch, right, Apocalypse Now 6105, you know, the original Turtle, and then you got the Tuna, which, God, just so many records and just all types of different movements, crazy accuracy under tons of water. They've taken these things down with submarines. Obviously not these models, but you know, that's what's tied to that lineage. So it's a really cool background, a lot of fun, and honestly, not just a timepiece, but a conversation piece from that aspect. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do a like, and if you're not subscribed for more content just like this. And do not forget, guys, Wrist Candy Watch Club. Hit them up. They're good guys. Thank you, of course, for watching, and thanks to Wrist Candy Watch Club for giving us, you know, the opportunity to bring you guys segments like this that aren't purely reviews, stuff that's just kind of fun to chat about, think about, and conversate about. So I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' comments below. Thanks.